And I think he was coming to see Dr. John played Hogs. He called it Dogs with a Paws, I remember. He said, "Is this Dogs with a Paws?" We're like, "Yep."
New Orleans knows how to throw a festival, but every now and then one comes along that's a little bit bigger than just a party. Hogs for the Cause started as a grassroots gathering of friends, food, and music, and has grown into a nationally recognized event raising millions of dollars for families battling pediatric brain cancer. Joining us now is one of the co-founders and CEO, Becker Hall, here on the table, sponsored by Blue Runner Foods. Becker, it's great to have you.
Always a pleasure, Mark. My pleasure.
Okay, and it's a pleasure for me always to see you. I've got to start here. Your bio reads not like a CEO. It reads more like a man who wants to hang out with people in a backyard cookout. You talk about reverse sear steak cooking technique. You're an elite hydrator, Merlot, 3 last names, and you're a staunch proponent of all of that.
You want to start at hydration?
Well, let me also ask you about, you had a cease and desist for quoting MC Hammer.
Yeah, in my signature, that's correct. Yeah.
So, yeah, you can pick up any one of those topics.
Well, we can start with Hammer. So when we began Hogs, what it was is just trying to get all of our friends together and do that backyard barbecue that you alluded to. You know, our first year was on the fly, but I would just sign off.
No, it wasn't just on the fly. It was actually physically on the fly.
Yeah, it was physically on the fly.
Yeah. At Audubon.
But I mean, that's how we recruited people, is basically via email those times. This was there was a little bit of Facebook, but it was really just still a very personal connection to everybody. And I like to sign off my emails as Becker, please hammer, don't hurt 'em, Hall. So, Hogs was always so big, and, we went after the NFL. We went after the big names quickly, and, the Hammer family was not, to anybody with the hammer, the world's a nail. So when they saw another hammer coming in there, they were like, this guy.
They literally saw this.
I don't know what happened, but something got back to me and said, you might want to remove this from your signature. And that, to us at Hogs for the Cause, it's like, if you're going to threaten us, we're going twice as hard. But, those follow-up albums from Hammer just didn't hit as hard as Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em. So I didn't really have much juice to go with after that.
You were being kind at that point.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'll move on.
All right, let's go back to the beginning. What was the impetus behind this gathering of a group of people, friends of yours, to go to the Fly?
Sure. So, the origin story of Hogs, and my co-founder Renee Luop and I, we grew up together. We were neighbors out in Metairie, and he had 2 sisters. I had 2 brothers. So I mean, he literally spent more time at our house than he did at his house. So he was pretty much our third brother, and we both went to Jesuit high school here locally. Somehow Renee was elected president of that school.
Really, Renee?
I mean, even Jesuit has regrets in life. Yeah, Renee. Must have been a bad year. But, so when I went away to college, I went to University of South Carolina, and we were enduring the longest losing streak in the country under Lou Holtz. Rest in peace, Lou. At 0-21, but we were selling out every single football game still, because there was a great, and still to this day, a really great tailgate scene at South Carolina. And they smoke whole hogs before every football game is what we did. And it's kind of neat, but really for somebody like me, it was, wow, I get to start partying 36 hours in advance up to game day.
And you were bringing the party from New Orleans.
Yeah, you give me a head start on a party, that's all I need. So when we both graduated our schools and came back to New Orleans, and it was an interesting time. I don't want to age myself, but it was the early 2000s, and we're in New Orleans, which is arguably the greatest food city in the country, arguably the world. But we had 0 barbecue. There was, Bywater Barbecue,
right.
The Joint.
There were no pig pickings going on here.
We have this amazing cochon de lait boucherie tradition in Southwest Louisiana, but it kind of stops the closer you get to New Orleans. And I was working in finance, and he was an attorney, but he was also writing a food blog at the time, and I don't know if you remember it, called blackenedout.com, which is a play on redfish and partying. So he had a really devoted audience. Like, I think his website was the #1 website in all of New Orleans for this 25-year-old kid, him and Peter. And through that, they were getting, hits of what's going on in the food community in New Orleans around that. And we had already planned to do this pig roast just because we thought it would be a neat concept.
Kind of take the South Carolina feel back to New Orleans.
Bring it down to New Orleans and see, if anybody would enjoy it. But then he got, an email about a sous chef in New Orleans who had a child with an inoperable brain tumor. That person, the parent, had happened to go to our high school as well, had grown up around us as well. And we said, you know what, we got to try to use this barbecue we're doing to raise some money for this family. And so we just went after it and named it Hogs for the Cause, got a 501c3, and we named it that because we were like, oh, we'll change the cause every year if this is successful.
Right.
So, and we actually toyed with the name of Pigtails because we were going to do crawfish and barbecue. But they were like, no, we got to be purist. We're going really just full bore, all we are at puns. So, at that time, food was getting so elevated and chefs were rock stars. And we were like, what's the most versatile protein out there? It really is the pig. So let's just dedicate this event to solely the pig. So back to the child, though, he wasn't able to make the event. He was on a Disney, Make-A-Wish cruise at the time. And we were able to meet him after the event. And we walked into the meeting after the Hogs, where we had 200 friends, passed around a hat, cooked a pig to what is now FDA probably accepted, but back then it didn't. Here we are on the fly. It's windy. We're in the back of a Ryder truck. We're lighting charcoal starters in the back of a truck. Like, we're either bad things are going to happen, but it's going to be newsworthy. I can tell you that. And Donald Link had donated our first pig to us, and it was this long caterpillar pig because it had taken out the vertebrae, and they sewed it back up. And we didn't even know how to get it on the spit. It was a disaster, which is why we have a competition now. We were like, we got to farm this out. But
find the other experts.
Yeah, this is not for us. But, we met that child after the event where we raised $7,500, which when you're in your mid-20s, you're like, wow, that's an incredible amount of money.
And we're talking about the early 2000s.
Early 2000s, just passing a hat, literally passing a hat around the yard. And, we didn't have any expectations when we met him. We didn't, neither of us were married or had children at the time. So we walked in there, and that child just saw something in us that he just wanted to entertain us. And he was just cracking these jokes and making us laugh the whole time. And this child was 8 years old, knew he had a terminal case of cancer, did not have long to live. And there was something in both of us that clicked immediately. It was so cathartic. We're going, this child is not going to live. He's not going to have the experiences that we had. And in that process, his family may be financially decimated. So they're going to lose their child. They're going to go into some really hard what they call financial toxicity now in the medical world. And it just didn't sit right with us. So here we are, the two of us who talk about our childhood and all the bad things we did nonstop to this day. And this child's not going to experience it. It didn't make sense. So we walked out of that meeting and said, we're going to build the biggest pediatric brain cancer charity. That's what the cause for Hogs will be. And we've done it, and we did it in that child's honor. And now it's grown so demonstratively that we're trying to build in the biggest pediatric cancer charity, period, in the country. Wow. And all on kind of the back of barbecue.
Fantastic. That's going to be a movie one day.
Oh, man.
Hey, so it's not only grown into this great competition, as you say, you're bringing in others to show off, so to speak. It's become this great music festival. How did that come into play? And I understand you spend a lot of your time, too, dealing with the music side.
Yeah, so, I'd also booked bands in college, and, it was something that I enjoyed doing, and it was a lot of luck and a lot of good timing. We were fortunate to be able to position ourselves to kind of kick off festival season in New Orleans. It's New Orleans. There's always a ton of events, but there was still a little bit of an opportunity there for another big one to come in. So, we didn't say, oh, we want to be what we are today that first year, but by the second or third year, we saw the opportunity to bring in stages and bring in acts. And we knew that we kind of had to differentiate what we were because there's French Quarter Fest, then Jazz Fest. So, we were like, it's barbecue. Let's go in that Americana angle. And a lot of those bands weren't traveling through New Orleans, so it gave us a really good position.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got Mardi Gras we get through,
Yeah.
and then, as you say, we get into that early part of March, and we're looking to get geared back up with the music. So now the site itself is. You can explain that to us. How is it laid out with the stages and the competition points?
So, as you may know, we've endured a lot of challenges getting to where we are just because of the wonderful weather of New Orleans in the spring. We were branded as basically a lagoon fest for a long time.
I remember those days at City Park.
We took on two of the worst post-Katrina storms our weekend of Hogs since Katrina still.
But still raising money.
But still crushing it on the fundraising side. But now we're out at UNO, which is higher grounds and a wonderful spot for us, and where we take up about close to 40 acres.
That's the East Campus of the University of New Orleans, soon to be LSU New Orleans.
Correct, where the Pope spoke as well.
That's right.
So I think that the Pope and us being there are probably two of the most widely regarded events in Catholic history.
Potentially.
That's my quote. Some others may disagree. But also, we got a head start because Lollapalooza in New Orleans was there too. And we were able to kind of study their logistics and what they did with that festival in that same space. And that was helpful. We probably took typical Hogs fashion, looked at it and did the complete opposite of what was probably the right thing to do. But we've built it into what it is, and the teams within Hogs are the real rock stars that really make that festival what it is. What we kind of say is, like tech, it's open sourced. They are the ones that it's a festival for the people by the people. They're what make that.
Yeah, talk to us about the teams that you see. Some of the highlights. I know you can't name them all because somebody's going to be upset you didn't name them. It's like your favorite children, but some of the.
Well, I only have one child.
Some of the greatest names of these teams.
Yeah, and it's like we said, there's just so many pork puns out there and porcine jokes and riddles. But pork chopatulas, obviously, that's a great one on a New Orleans level. There's Piglet, there's some racier names that we don't need to discuss, but it's kind of, if you're a first timer and you go to Hogs, it is a sensory overload. Mm-hmm. You walk into the yard and you just see these double-decker, triple-decker tents, and you're like, where did this
Taj
come
Mahals,
from?
I mean, literally, people set up and you think this has got to be permanent. No, it's just temporary for a few days.
It's temporary. It's weeks of building up. It's a whole year of fundraising, and then they bring it down literally the day after Hogs, and you're like, what is this?
They start planning for next year. It's like a Mardi Gras parade, right? You see the floats one time, and then they start again.
Yeah, it gets in you. You're ready. You're like, the interesting thing is when you have, now we do have one all-female team, Sweet Swine of Mine, but other than that.
Sweet Swine of Mine.
Sweet Swine of Mine. Mm-hmm. But there's 4,000 mostly men on these teams. And, they can be competitive, as you know. And if you see one team doing something, next year you're damn well sure the other team's going to be, I'm going to do that better.
Yeah.
Back to South Carolina, for those tailgates, everybody used to go and try to get the biggest bamboo pole to hang your flag on. Mm-hmm. That was it. And that's how I still go back and go, man, this is just nothing but, it's no different. Everybody's just trying to build the biggest bamboo pole out there. So,
tell me the impact that you're having on these families now, which is tremendous. But you've also established a number of partnerships, and I know through the Children's Hospital, Manning's Family Children's, right?
Correct. So, what we do is pediatric brain cancer is the number one. It's a leading terminal cancer in children. It outpaces leukemia. There's been a lot of strides and advances in leukemia that makes for better outcomes for those patients. But unfortunately, that success isn't carried over to pediatric brain just yet. So we work with every single children's hospital in the country. And we get just about every single child who's in financial constraints. And we issue some of the largest cash grants to those families in the country. We try not to put a Band-Aid. We want to make a real difference and impact for that family. And then we also, because the fundraising has gotten so strong, it puts us in a position where to your point on Manning Family Children's, we're able to build and do bigger projects. So at Children's Hospital in New Orleans, or Manning, still getting used to that, we have the Hogs House. And what the Hogs House is, and we're under construction of our third one. We have one in St. Petersburg, Florida, going up. Is it's family housing.
Right.
So it allows for any child of any diagnoses, not just brain cancer, to have a free place to stay on hospital campus while their child is getting treatment. And why that's important is there's a lot of studies that shows that, the medical care, you're going to get great medical care, but there's an emotional side. When families have to be broken up and they have to travel to get the best care possible for their child, there's a stress that impacts the whole family. And that's just as critical as the care they're receiving. So these Hogs Houses, they save families something like $2 to $3 million a year. We've had a family as far as Uganda stay for 6 weeks while they received a heart transplant. So we have one of those in New Orleans. We have one at Our Lady of the Lake in Baton Rouge, and another one in St. Pete. But we also build state-of-the-art HEMONC centers, which are hematology oncology units in hospitals around the country. For instance, we have a 23,000 square foot one that's being built in Mississippi, Jackson right now. Only children's hospital there is Children's of Mississippi. Great thing about that is, yes, it gets all the pediatric cancer kids, but Mississippi also has the #1 sickle cell population in the country. And what we're building is, it's also hematology, which is sickle cell. So helping just so many different kids through this one event.
Wow. Say this is going to be the first time somebody comes out to Hogs for a Cause. What will they experience, and how do you navigate it?
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking for. Like, I think that we internally think of it as a food festival first. So on Friday night, it's bacon night and wing night. There's 2 tons of bacon out in the yard on Friday, and a lot of wings too. Sponsored by Tabasco.
But they're cooking. They start preparing.
Yeah, so
on Thursday.
Some start Thursday, most of them start Friday. So barbecue traditionally, because there's whole hog and pork butt and ribs, you need 12 to 24 hours to kind of get those done. So Friday night had to be kind of a quicker cook. So that's why we introduced bacon
wings
night
and
bacon, because you don't need to smoke it all night to have it ready. And then Saturday is where it's just kind of full on barbecue with all your traditional stuff out there. But there is everything possible in that yard that you can. If you're not a pork fan, there's brisket. There's just everything. If you're vegan or vegetarian, there's beer. So there's something for everybody.
Becker, you're the best. So there's music as well, right? Who's out there this year?
It's, we had another thing is we don't have these huge, massive.
Can you be
budgets.
a regular guest at your?
Yeah, I'll come on here anytime. You don't get me. We have 21 bands, and what we're known for is breaking big bands in the Americana space. We've had the Turnpike Troubadours, and we've had Camp's first festival show ever. Last year, Zach Top, who's now the biggest country star in the United States.
Because of Hogs for the Cause.
Yeah, we have to work really hard to find these bands before they break, because we can't afford them after. So, Tyler Childers, we've done it with him, Marcus King, there's a litany of them. So a lot of times we say, you may not know some of these names when you come into the yard, but go watch them, because one day you could brag and say, oh, I remember when
I've
saw
been to
them
that
at
concert.
Hogs, they were nothing. They were just a backyard, but I found them. That's what I like to hear.
That's great. So people looking to go out there, where can they find tickets?
Well, we make it really, really difficult. So we have 2 websites. If you go to hogsforthecause.org, that's our charity website, but it'll ask you. You could go directly to hogsfest.org too, and that's where you purchase tickets. Obviously, you can always purchase at the gates, but we, save some money, get them in advance.
And it's going to a great, great cause.
Yeah, we're in year 18, so we can vote, and that's exciting. We can't rent cars, but we always operate this company like a startup, and we feel like there's so much left for us to do that we're still kind of just getting started. And we look in the mirror and we don't see the same kids that we once were when we were 25.
Yeah.
But we're still ambitious for the cause and want to do a lot more
Well, I was going to ask you the long range plan that you have, but I think you're touching on it right now. You're reaching out across the country. You're impacting families all over the world.
Right, and I think it's important that we're a charity that has a festival, not a festival that supports a charity. And one of the cool things is when somebody comes to Hogs, we get this all the time. They say there is no other festival like this in the country. There simply isn't. And New Orleans is one of the only cities where this can be done. We looked at scaling it, and it just can't be done. But the cooler thing is a lot of the children's hospitals around the country will say there is no charity like Hogs in the country. It doesn't exist. So that makes us feel a lot better about what we do. Like, do we throw killer party? Yeah, but at the end of the day, the 363 other days of the year is where we're down. We're really grinding.
Do you have room for any more teams in the years to come?
We don't. Unfortunately, we're in a great place where we have this massive wait list, but we don't have the space.
Right.
So for anybody who's been out there, we do awards that Saturday night. It's up to the last second to be able to get that done.
Yeah.
With judging, logistics.
I've had the fortune of judging, and it is the most delicious experience I've ever had.
We can't even put another category in there because that'll put us an hour behind just by doing another category. Yeah. So we've hit our sweet spot around 85 to 90 teams, and that's where we like to keep it. Yeah. Or it would go on till next year.
And what's so good about these teams, and I know several of the team's members, this is something they really look forward to more than anything other than a winning Saints season.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I think it originally started like, we kind of broke the mold, they said, of getting guys to fundraise. And originally I think it was, hey, honey, it's for the kids. I'm just going to drink 38 beers and smoke this hog. I'm fundraising. I'm not partying.
I'm working.
I'm trying to make a difference here. But then they all saw the experience they get, and then the tangible results that the charity's making. Yeah. And that's where the buy-in really came in.
Yeah, it's fantastic. What you and Renee have created, just, again, you're impacting families all over the world, and we can't thank you enough.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it.
Love it. And
good luck this year. Good weather this year. Knock on wood.
Yeah, that's all.
But you know what's good about it? Even if it's a crazy weekend weather, y'all are still raising millions of dollars.
We'll still raise most. Quint Davis told me something interesting when we were young, and he was out there on our stage, and I think he was coming to see Dr. John played Hogs. He called it Dogs with a Paws. I remember. He said, "Is this Dogs with a Paws?" We're like, "Yep." But Quint was like, the interesting thing about New Orleanians, they love the festival culture. When they wake up, they don't look down; they look up. So it doesn't really matter what your field looks like. They just want to be there.
That's beautiful. Well, thanks for being here on the Table, which is sponsored by Blue Runner Foods, and we wish you all the best this year and all the years to come. Give our best to Renee. We'll see him out there.
I'll give him something. I don't know if it'll be the best, but I'll give him something.
Thank you. One more question.
Sure.
Explain the shirt.
So, Hogs is gotten pretty well known for our merch game. We keep the merch game pretty tight. We're on the cutting edge of merch, and this is another angle that I like to do. I've got some great designers, and I'll say, I've got a theme. What can you do with this theme? And this is obviously, we call this Grateful Fed.
Grateful Fed.
Is, pigs instead of dancing bears that some band, I think.
And where can we find that merch?
That all is at the festival. And
come on out to the festival.
Yeah, you got to get at the fest. We sell everything out, and they're like, "Are you going to do reorders? Going to buy online?" The answer is no. You can only get at the festival.
Becker, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Good luck. Hey, y'all, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel and turn on your notifications. Please follow us. We've got new shows each and every week. And a very, very special thanks to all of our sponsors who are making this possible. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.